to the forbidden journo secrets. That's right, we're going to give you all of the juicy details that the journalists don't want you to know, which you probably have already guessed, because it's all very obvious, and that is, most mainstream journalists are in fact... Are you ready for this? If you've got a drink or soup or anything warm, you might want... That's right, Connor, you might want to take it away, okay? Journalists are a bunch of rich kids.
You're kidding.
I know. And did you know they might be the beneficiaries of nepotism?
Never.
I know. I, for one, am shocked. And before I get into it, there's something relevant that Josh and I spoke about recently on a Contemplations, where we were talking about sneaky journalists' rhetorical tricks and going through a bunch of articles and just examining the ways in which they manipulate language to manipulate your brain. You may not notice it, but your brain did. And one of the rhetorical tricks it seems that they like to pull is pretending that they're not a bunch of spoiled rich brats. And they do this by a number of different means, including just having most of their personal history wiped off of the internet and kept that way, which... you know, for a lot of these people, isn't how they treat the subjects of their journalistic investigations. So, very, very interesting. But this started off, and I do need to thank, as always, Binary Surfer for tagging me in this. He's always excellent. He's well worth a follow on Twitter, if you're aware of him, and if you haven't followed already, where he said, F me, eye-opener is understanding this, it needs publicising. But, shockingly enough, the tweet... was deleted by the tweet author, and we'll see why that was, because it doesn't seem that it was simply this thread that was deleted itself. Right. But thankfully, somebody did manage to archive it. Because what this thread is going through, if we go to the next link, please, John, thank you. What this thread is going through is a number of examples of very, very high-profile mainstream journalists who are either trying to keep their secret family history, that being that they're rich millionaires or billionaires, as Bernie Sanders would say. Well, pre-2016, Bernie Sanders would say. Either that or just keep their information off of the internet altogether. And it's very interesting, the information that this particular Twitter user, Neville the Cat, Fear the Floof, a very good boy if ever I've seen one, has managed to unearth. And you can check out a lot of this information, and trust me, you will have to do some digging to find the information that he's going to go through here, but it does all seem to be above board and check out. And it will also include reference to one of our old favourites, our old pal, Taylor Lorenz.
Oh, for God's sake, you're subjecting me to this old crone again.
Yes, and old crone is more accurate than you might guess.
Oh,
because,
I would assume
yes,
so.
We now know your birth date, Taylor. At least we don't know your address, like poor old libs of TikTok, though. And once again, Neville the Cat, I think he is back on Twitter right now, but his account mysteriously got completely nuked after posting this big thread. So F's in the chat, boyos.
It's just insane that we genuinely have anonymous cat accounts on Twitter providing more reliable information than that strange... fired eunuch on CNN whose show is literally called Reliable Sources, or was, I suppose.
What, you mean Brian Stelter?
Yeah, it's just weird that we actually have more accurate information from cat accounts than we do these multi-million-dollar corporate conglomerations giving us the narrative.
Yes, when the internet really started to kick off in the late 90s, early 2000s, I don't think anybody saw this coming. No. But, you know, the cards fell where they did, so let's take a look through this, shall we? So he starts off by saying, one of the most fascinating things about the modern age we live in is the population of journalists almost exclusively being from mega-rich families, and the fact they have done such a good job of hiding it from the internet. The most extreme case of this is our old friend, and this is probably the most well-publicised one that most of you will know about, is Carlos Maza, a name that a lot of people haven't found relevant for a while, but he makes a great case study in this. Right out of the Wake Forest University, he worked for Vox, pushing extreme left-wing views and targeting anyone on the right, no matter how poor or middle class. What almost no one knew was that he was a billionaire, and I think he was like a billionaire or a millionaire, whichever one. And we'll see also through this tweet thread that there doesn't seem to be a single redeeming photograph of this man. Every single photo I've seen of him is just completely ridiculous and makes him look like a nincompoop. I think that's a good term that people don't use enough anymore. And they carry on. What's amazing about this is almost no one knew example of the photo right there.
Yeah.
Smug socialist face that knew that his mother and stepfather were tech billionaires with multiple mansions, yachts, and private planes. And Mazza himself was raised in a $10.8 million mansion in Boca Raton, Florida. Until his termination at Vox, there was no Google result that you could get that could tell you anything on his background. Nothing. Complete memory hole. For almost 10 years, he was able to use his massive platform to cancel anyone he saw fit and to abuse his power unchecked. And once again, this is just a reiteration. This man thinks he's better than you. He doesn't just think that it's his journalistic duty to reveal the truth. He believes it's his journalistic duty to pass moral judgment on those he sees as his lessers. And sadly, being that he's technically part of what you could describe as an aristocratic class in America, as close as they have to one, he seems to view anything that's relevant or important to those poorer than him as simply being... And despite the fact of the rhetoric and imagery we can see here, sorry, Grandma, we're communists now, despite putting those sorts of ideas forward, he definitely seems to be the sort of person who saw himself above the ideas and whatever was important to the dirty proles beneath him.
So did Marx, though. He leached himself off Engels. He had plenty of money. He
it
banged
is
his
a
maid and threw his kids out in the street.
recurring theme that we find through this.
The interesting thing is as well, same case with Summer Amanat, who's the person that created Ms. Marvel over at Marvel Studios.
No surprise there. Let me guess, she's the daughter of some wealthy oil baron from Saudi Arabia?
No, so she went to college and got poached by Virgin Comics straight out, despite never having picked up a comic book in her life, and then became almost immediately chief creative officer at Marvel. But one of her, I believe it's one of her
meritocracy,
brothers,
folks. We live in a meritocracy, I swear.
It might be one of the brothers that's deeply involved with the Clinton Foundation.
Of course.
And then she gets like a Medal of Freedom from the Obamas, and she goes to address the White House, and it's like, so it's just a new racial aristocracy.
15 years from now, she's going to disappear under mysterious circumstances.
I know nothing about the whereabouts of various emails, Hillary. Please don't kill me.
But given that, like, Mazza was fired from Vox ages and ages ago, you might have forgotten some of the things that he got up to back in the day, because this guy was quite influential. And, for instance, if we go to the next link, you can see back in the day, back in 2019, tried to get Stephen Crowder investigated by YouTube for offensive speech that Crowder had supposedly directed at Mazza, who, surprise, surprise, is a gay man. I know. Shock horror.
Well, his tag was @gaywonk.
It was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. And it says in this article here, Mazza, the host of Vox's media literacy series...
That's ironic.
Yes, Strike Through... I don't know if that was directed at Mazza or me. Accused Crowder on Twitter this week of repeated and overt attacks on my sexual orientation and ethnicity. He said that the pundit had called him an anchor baby and a lispy queer. And he said that he is now the subject of harassment. Well, all I'm going to say, Mazza, is if the shoe fits...
That's terrible. It's reprehensible. How could he possibly...
If the shoe fits, and having nasty words, thrown at you is so awful. When, but I tell you what isn't awful, which is encouraging people to get milkshaked, which is never proven to be a terrible thing to do ever, and definitely isn't part of a slippery slope and encouraging far leftist violence.
Well, they literally put ready setting concrete in some of them at
no, they didn't. Fake news.
Did they not? Did they not?
No, I think they did.
Of course they did.
Yeah, of course they did. As we can see, Tim Pool back in the day pointing out, milkshake them all, humiliate them at every term, which is obviously just an encouragement to violence. Whether they want to, it's like when someone like Hassan Piker will talk about, we need to, I don't know, kill this person in a video game. We know what you're doing. You can say milkshake them all, but we know what you're actually encouraging. You're cheering on the bike lock madman that was at Berkeley, for instance, trying to bash people's skulls in for having opposing political opinions.
Well, when Marx and Engels both in separate texts said, we want a revolution so bloody it makes the French look like child's play, I'm going to believe you when you call for genocide.
And I know, but taking people at their word is something you only do when it's rightists and not leftists. But anyway, let's move back onto the thread, shall we? So if we go back on, there we go, and we'll carry on. So it wasn't until he was fired from Vox for being too much of a left-wing extremist, let that one sink in, and he began his failed YouTube career, did anyone do any digging into just how this guy was able to afford some of the most expensive real estate in New York with no income. Very interesting circumstances to find yourself in. A billionaire journalist who went to Christopher Columbus High School and Wake Forest University was able to cosplay working-class socialists attacking poor and working-class people for years without anyone knowing his real background.
Carl and I recently covered that book as well, How Fascism Works, on the weekend segment, and it is just communist tripe.
Oh, I've not watched that one yet, although I have actually covered. I remember when it came out, there was the Twitter thread talking about, oh, you just need to do this, and it was basically just saying, people who disagree with me are evil, kill them, which is kind of what you expect.
It said
from
fascism
trash.
operates on us and them narratives. Now let me talk to you about the proletariat bourgeoisie.
Now, we on the left, we would never do anything like that. We're just on the right side of history.
And you bash the fash or not.
But let's carry on, shall we, to our favourite, Taylor Lorenz.
Oh, okay.
Here
Wonderful.
she is, that shining, glowing, youthful face.
Look at those bloody jowls, God almighty.
I know, she's got kind of a weird, saggy face.
She does. She looks like she's been like a candle left by a radiator for too long.
We should probably stop before we violate terms of service.
I'm sorry, stunning and brave trans woman.
Yeah. You can hardly almost tell. But Taylor Lorenz might actually be an even worse offender of this hypocrisy. While also born to fabulous wealth and privilege, she has the family power to keep her past off the internet even after it became known. She can actually get it removed forever from the internet. What's amazing about her is we know she was born in New York City, raised in the richest zip code of Connecticut, and we also know that she attended I didn't know this part, a Swiss private boarding school and graduated from Hobart and William Smith College. But that's about it. While this woman of wealth and privilege can dox even the poorest, weakest, least powerful people on the internet, excuse me, and I'm not going to say that libs of TikTok was the poorest or weakest or least powerful, but she certainly did dox libs of TikTok when it was, if you were trying to, just criticize libs of TikTok for her work, that was not necessary. It was an obvious intimidation play that she was doing. But she can do all of that, publish their private information, address, workplaces, and phone numbers. She can apparently get anything about herself wiped from the internet forever. And one of the most interesting examples of this, because you can see these images, we don't know who the parents are, don't know siblings, we don't know a bunch of details. If you click on the actual tweet itself, it won't show up. But if we go to her Wikipedia, one of the most interesting examples of this, because if you just scroll through, you'll see there's no family details or anything. But look at the birth date.
Yeah.
It's almost like she's an archaeological discovery.
Yeah.
You look back on Wikipedia entries for people like Socrates, and we have a more narrow window when they were born. Whereas Taylor Lorenz, it's like, I don't know, we need to count the rings or something. Yeah, maybe 84, maybe 87. Are you trying to
carbon date her, Harry? Stop trying to date her. Stop it.
Oh my God, I'm sorry. I know. Criticizing women just means I'm sexually attracted to them. Oh, my incel frustrations leaking out. Yeah. Maybe that was the wrong...
That was the wrong way to put it. Can I just point out slightly, if you can just scroll up, John, if you look at the opening paragraph, she worked as a social media editor for the Daily Mail. Now, everyone that accuses the Daily Mail of being a right-wing newspaper, as we just did with our segment on the Conservative Party conference, entryism is cancer. Stop letting these people into your institutions. They will corrupt them from within. Right. Stop it.
I think that the best way to say it is just that a newspaper is only as right-wing as the contributors. Yeah. So when the Daily Mail, when they have a Peter Hitchens a column, for instance, then that's right-wing, whatever. But when they've got mostly this, and I mean the Daily Mail is mainly a gossip rag.
Oh, the wall of shame on the side when you're reading about a massive
it makes me
geopolitical event
to visit their website.
Hear about Demi Rose's plastic breasts. Fantastic. Cheers for that.
I know, but if we carry on back to the thread now, so Neville continues by asking, how would a TikTok journalist be able to get her history wiped off of the internet forever? Now, hold on as we go into the family of Lorenz, and you can't find all of this information on the internet without much effort. Taylor Lorenz was born into a mega rich developer, Walter R. Lorenz and Anne Lorenz, and raised in a $5.7 million mansion. Her sister is Brooke Lorenz of CNN, and I checked that out, and it's true, and I was not aware of that. So it seems that the family sort of may have herded them all into a very particular career path. I wonder if it was in any way to promote their own political views in big mainstream places.
Very young global leader, World Economic Forum vibes.
Yes, but it's her uncle that's the big story here. Taylor Lorenz'
What
mum
did he do
and
to her?
uncle, God, were mega rich. Well, she does say she's got PTSD and trauma, so. Her uncle were mega rich children of a very powerful politician, and R. MacDonald, her uncle, is the owner and founder of the Wayback Machine Internet Archive. I will say I can't find information on this. But...
I did hear that before.
Oh, you have heard of that before.
Of that before.
But it is interesting as well how it ties into some of the privilege that she seems to get from the Wayback Machine. Trying to find info about any of these people is nearly impossible, which is true. It's very, very difficult. Taylor Lorenz even had her uncle exempt her Twitter account from the Wayback Machine. So once she deletes her tweets, they are wiped from the internet forever, which is why it's good to screenshot her tweets, ladies and gentlemen. You can, they can get rid of the tweet, they can get rid of the archive of the tweet, but you'll still have the screenshot. So, for the record, she was born on October 21st, 1984, in New York City.
Ironic, considering she's erasing the past.
Yeah, which is making her 37 years old and will make her 38 in a few days. So for those of you wondering where the carbon dating really placed her at, we've got a definitive answer, finally. But it's very interesting how she's able to exert all of this influence and has all of this family power behind her, and we, the simple plebs on the street, are not privy to this information. And you would think that this would be relevant when, as I've said, these types of people are the new aristocracy, considering themselves better than us, feeding us the information that allows people not only to make informed decisions politically, but moral judgments. Once again, these people think they are morally better than you. They think they are the guiding light for your new morality. And I think that that's pretty disgusting. Moving on, Ben Collins of NBC News has leveraged his power and family wealth to become one of the most powerful internet hall monitors of our age. While Taylor Lorenz can get her wiki page wiped, Ben doesn't even have one.
He's got those jaws on Michael Myers' eyes. The doll's eyes, the devil's eyes, just dead. Like a Coraline character.
I would be very interested to see the contents of his fridge. I agree. And you can search him. He doesn't have a Wikipedia entry. Very interesting. And they carry on. The lead disinformation journalist at the biggest network news platform in the United States has not even a blurb that pops up in his first 100 Google results. What we do know is he's a 47-year-old man who went to Emerson College, which cost a whopping $75,000 a year to attend in today's dollars. A very private, very exclusive, buy your way into college founded in 1880 for rich white people to buy an exclusive education, so just another rich kid. And he's built a brand around targeting citizens who work against Democrats and labeling them domestic terrorists. Interestingly enough, when I did look him up, most of what came up was his work surrounding the Jan 6 protests.
Of course it was. So he's got no Google bio when you search it at all?
No. I think he's got a Twitter account which has maybe 2 or 3 tweets on it.
Right, that's strange. Even I've got that. Mine's wrong because it says I'm a footballer, but if someone as low profile as me can have that, then the leading disinformation journalist in America doesn't have it, and nobody raises an eyebrow.
Very, very interesting, isn't it? And once again, this is a man who, as part of his work with January 6th, and I don't want to say too much here, has helped the persecution of many people who are still being held under very, very liberally applied charges.
Yeah,
we say.
No habeas corpus whatsoever. Nothing.
Yeah. For the most part, he targets the poor and middle class, the weak, the people with no resources and no way to fight back or clear their name once smeared. He continues when we go further down after we've moved past Ben Collins, like for instance Anderson Cooper here. You can do in one tweet. He's a Vanderbilt.
Right.
He's a Vanderbilt. I mean, obviously he comes from incredibly old money. And then we can go down one and we can see Chris Cuomo. Do we need to explain any more?
No.
These are the people giving you the news, giving you your opinions, telling your family members how they should think about you, telling your family members the sorts of talking points they should throw at you when you're at the Christmas dinner table, creating division in your family, and they're getting rich off of it. They're living in their gated communities. They're coming from their family backgrounds that allow them immense wealth and power that mean that they can just get any information they want taken off the internet whenever they want. And don't tell me for an instance that Chris Cuomo wouldn't be able to pull a few strings and get most information that he didn't want online taken off Google search results.
It's a shame he couldn't get the news about his producers being alleged paedophiles not able to come out, isn't it? What a shame that is.
Well, I think he was a bit late on that one, sadly.
Yeah, a little bit out the gate. My only comment, I suppose, is when the leftists bang on endlessly in postmodern fashion about how everyone's philosophy only serves their own power and ambitions.
It's projection.
Believe them. Yeah.
But if we carry on, like I said, the account itself, Neville the Cat, who was a very, very good boy, seems to have been put down prematurely. We've got Radical Liberation in responding to some people pointing out that the tweet thread got taken down, and then saying that the account got taken down as well, saying, you're right, the whole account got destroyed. He had 25,000 followers, and immediately after posting this, within a few hours, gone.
Suspicious.
Very interesting. It's almost as though somebody didn't want this information out there. And as I said, we've got an archive, but other people have been reposting screenshots of the thread, because I think a few people were clever enough to see this and go, somebody's not going to want this out there.
Thank you for your service.
Yes, thank you all of you diligent screenshotters out there. And then he also had a new account put up, and then it was gone again.
Though to be fair,
I checked this.
The name.
True.
What's the video version if you are listening in?
But yes, just to say, I checked this morning and his account was back, but it might have gone again by the time that this is broadcast. So I don't know. But this is just your friendly... our McDonald Taylor Lorenz just saw your NYT piece this evening on Facebook. I did not see this. Very interesting. So that seems to be private tweets. This seems to confirm things. Yes. Television archive, internet archive, offering journalists. Yep. All seems to check out to me.
Yep. If you appreciated that segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to all the premium content we have on the site, such as the Contemplation series that Josh does, on this one being on why women love serial killers. If you want to find out what else Josh is putting out, you can follow him on Getter at Josh_firm on Getter. Thank you and goodbye.